Hello, I'm Roberta Luca, aka Beta Luca, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how to build your personal brand and everything in between, from building your confidence and a little bit of my story of how I started to document my life, my entrepreneurial life, and everything that I have been doing behind the scenes to build my business and to launch products in the world. I'll start by sharing with you about the importance of role models. And in a minute, you're going to know why I'm saying that. It's known already that all the kids who grow up with a really strong role model are the ones who build much higher self-regulation. What is self-regulation? Self-regulation is about your ability to effectively deal with stressors around your life and, everything that comes to your life and the way that you deal with things and deal with your emotions. And my journey started with that. 3 years ago, I didn't even have an Instagram account, believe it or not. And I had this light bulb moment that I had to do something about role models because I grew up with one role model in my life, which is my mom. And beyond that, everywhere that I looked around in business, technology, it was all about men talking about their roles and talking about their experiences and, their careers. And it was very difficult for me to latch on things and to see myself, right, in the future through the lenses of people who didn't look like me. And to me, that's so connected to the deep reasons why you should be thinking about building your personal brand, and you should be looking after yourself and trying to understand how to be more confident and how to put yourself out there when people need you. They need to listen to your voice. Now, you might be asking yourself, okay, Roberta, you're talking about posting videos on LinkedIn and kind of building your online presence, but even on the setting of my work, it's a little bit difficult for me to speak up and to, say what I think in a particular meeting. Let me tell you something. Speaking up at meetings, it's about practice. And, it's like learning how to ride a bike, the first time you're going to try is going to be disastrous. But then you speak up and suddenly you start making sense and suddenly your points become more clear and you become more intentional about the communication you want to have with people, right? And the more you do that, the less you're going to feel that kind of sentiment of fear of rejection, of what if people are looking at me right now and people are judging me. Because really, if you are in that meeting, it's because you have a value to be there. And that's what needs to be on the back of your mind all the time. Check out my accent. English is my second language. And when I came to this country from Brazil, I was born in Brazil, I could barely speak English. And I remember I started working at Nokia, and it was incredible because, I was very welcome there and doing a great job. And I started to go to a lot of meetups in London. And every now and then someone would say to me, look, you have done so much. You have worked so hard in so many amazing projects. Why don't you talk about the things that you're doing to this audience? And I was always like, no, leave me here. I'm not going to do this. And, going back to the point about role models, I was actually making a disservice for everyone who's a foreigner in this country, and there are lots of us, right? That I just wouldn't put myself forward and share the things that I had learned in my life. So if you are thinking of building your personal brand and you're struggling with, trying to understand if people would care, I'm going to reinforce that to you. They do care. They do care. Your lessons, the stuff that you have been learning as a woman in technology, as a woman in business, right? Growing your career and kind of breaking the glass ceiling. And that's the reason why you're here in this conference, right? It's all very valuable for people. If you are in your 20s, I bet what you have to say is valuable for young kids or to people who are about to go at university and they're unsure if they should go for technology or not. If you are, in your 30s and 40s, maybe you should be talking to the early 20s and people who are now leaving university to go into the marketplace. And they need to know that whatever they learn and whatever they have inside them is an opportunity to teach other people and to be a role model for the next generations. Now, I'm going to tell you my story, because you might be wondering, who's this person who's talking about personal branding and about, breaking the glass ceiling, and I don't quite get where she's going towards. So I am a serial entrepreneur. I'm a computer scientist as well. So started, as a developer in Brazil. Came to England 15 years ago, worked in this very large corporation called Nokia, which was a mobile phones company. And 10 years ago, I decided to start my own business in video games. And since then, I won a BAFTA award. I got nominated by Forbes as top 50 women in tech. And I created multiple products, launched multiple games, and also failed multiple times. Not only on the day-to-day, because we all fail for some reason on the day-to-day, right? Things don't go well all the time. But also I failed with other businesses that I tried to, that I started. And back in 2017, I was online and sharing some thoughts every now and then on Twitter, and mostly just sharing things that other people were sharing and not really giving any importance of my personal brand, right? I was literally heads down, doing everything, doing the hard work, and not really paying attention to the world around me, apart from, doing a great job. And in 2017, I started a company that didn't go well. I failed miserably for many reasons. I'm not gonna go into the details here because there's no point. But I was in a really bad situation. I was hugely with low confidence, thinking that I was a failure. It was not about the business, but about myself as a failure. And in this process of kind of writing things down, I'm a massive note taker. So I do journaling, and I write about the stuff that I'm going through. And in the middle of this, I started to realize that actually there was something that was missing, that was not doing enough for myself and for, everyone around me, which was to expose myself to the world and tell the world the things that I believe are true. In this moment, I looked around me and I looked at YouTube videos and posts around on LinkedIn, and majority of the content was coming from men talking about their experiences. I don't know if you know that, but the majority of channels on YouTube created by women are actually talking about makeup, nails, and weight loss. And I said to myself, there must be a different voice there. There must be someone who might be talking about business. And I found some of them like Marie Forleo, but no one kind of an entrepreneur in the technology sector actually, unveiling the curtain behind the scenes of the way that they deal with life and the way that they build their careers. And I thought to myself, if no one's going to do that, I'm going to do it. Someone needs to do that, right? Because we need to be role models for the next generations. I started, it was not that easy, right? So I had to learn so many things. I had to learn how to do this, right? What I'm doing right now, which is talking to the camera and pretending that I'm talking to a human being. I had to learn about how to create a format or write something that makes sense to people, that doesn't come out of my subconscious and then suddenly you don't get what I'm talking about. So kind of format of script writing and how to create a message that makes sense to people and really add value on every single video that I put out. I didn't do this on my own. I had to look at resources online that were talking about SEO, about thumbnail, the best thumbnail for you to have on YouTube so that people click on that and watch your video. How the YouTube algorithm works, this, tons and tons and tons of lessons and hours to understand that. Look, just for the sake of this knowledge that I have for my life, everything is worth it. But most importantly, what is worth doing that, despite the views, despite anything that got out of that, are twofold. One, my confidence levels increased dramatically. Two, I started to have so many opportunities given to me, kind of people reaching out to me to say, hey, Roberta, I would love you to talk at this conference. Hey, Roberta, can you help me with that thing that I'm struggling in my business? And suddenly I realized the value that I could give to the world, not only through the videos that I was creating, but actually to allow people to get in contact with my personal brand and say, hey, I need something from her and I would love to collaborate with Roberta at some point in a particular project. Now you might be asking, Roberta, like, you are already on the next level of talking about videos and posts on LinkedIn and etc. I actually need to have more confidence on my day-to-day to even speak up at meetings. So I'm going to tell you something. Confidence is about action. Think from a different perspective. If you are in that meeting, it's because people want to hear your voice. They want to hear what you think about the subject that's being discussed. Now, let me tell you this again. I have been a woman in tech for 20 years. And I only started to put myself out there and build my personal brand 2.5 years ago. And I didn't have a strong presence anywhere. So I had to go to the basics of branding. So if you think about the best brands, your favorite brands in the world, what do they do that's so special? How do you connect to them emotionally? So if you think of Apple, if you think of Google, if you think of Red Bull, if you think of, whatever is kind of the brand that you love, they usually stand for something and against something. So the first thing you need to think about when you're building your brand is, what am I passionate about in the world? What do I care? What do I care about? What is the thing that I mostly talk to my friends and my colleagues on an ongoing basis that I get really enthusiastic and I want to make sure that they understand my point of view? That could be a really good clue into what is the thing that, your brand, your personal brand is all about. But also, it's helpful sometimes for you to have an enemy, right? So if you think about a brand like Red Bull, for instance, which is all about adventure and the new and, the exploration, what is it that enemy? The enemy is like the normal life, the boring life, the traditional things, the doing more of the same, right? So think about those things for you and for the stuff that you do on your day-to-day, because it might be, if you list the things that you're passionate about, that you care about, and the things that you against, that maybe you hate, that could be a good contrast for you to create, your personal brand, and of course start establishing the content that you want to put out there. You might be thinking that, the internet is too noisy. It is too noisy. There are millions of posts, like 2 million posts are posted on LinkedIn alone every single day. And that's the reason why you need to stand for something and against something. Let me give you some hope. I did my YouTube channel for 18 months and I posted about 50 videos. And nowadays I have around 600 hours watched on my YouTube channel, right? And I mean, it's not a lot if you compare to like the biggest YouTubers, right? This is really tame, but I came from nothing to 600 hours. Now, this year, my lockdown one project was to start a podcast called Hyper Curious. And Hyper Curious, I had 8 episodes, and in 2 months, I already achieved more than 1,500 hours of listens. So you see what happened there? Like in the beginning, it's really hard. It's a steep learning curve, it's steep growth. But then once you get to, the place where you shine most, which for me is much more the podcast than the YouTube channel, you actually find your swim lane and you find the place where you're going to fly. And this requires experimentation and requires you just being brave and saying, you know what, I really don't care if I'm confident enough, because my confidence will come from my actions. Now let's go into something more practical. I'm going to share with you 5 pro tips of the things that I learned about building my personal brand, and hopefully that's going to help you kickstart yours. First one is have a goal. Like, it's so important that you define why you're doing that. I mean, for me, it was to become a role model that I didn't have. And maybe for you, it's going to be that too. And I think it should, like deep down as a society, right? We all need to have more role models for our next generations. But have your personal goal. Why do you want that? Do you want to build your personal brand because you want to earn more money, because you want to have more promotions at your work, right? Or because you want to be able to speak up at meetings, or you want to be able to do talks outside, or to participate better in conversations online that you have. So define a very clear goal, because once you define that, everything else that you create on the day-to-day should go through that filter. Let's assume that you decide that your topic is going to be talking about artificial intelligence, right? And that's your swim lane. That's the topic that you're most passionate about. And your goal is to be able to be a thought leader in AI, because in the future, you want to create your own company which is related to AI, right? No point of you talking about what you ate in the morning, politics, sports, the latest Netflix series that you're watching, right? That is going to confuse our audience, and it's going to prevent you from really dedicating the right time to talk about artificial intelligence, right? Which is the thing that you're most passionate about. So you don't see like Red Bull talking about politics. You see Red Bull talking about adventure. That's what their brand is all about. So think about that. What is your goal? And everything that you create should go through that filter. Number 2, make it that simple. Start crafting your post and think about the one thing you want to tell the world. One message, one fact, one emotion, and put it out there. I'm going to give you a practical example. This post here, which went on LinkedIn recently, had one of the most amount of shares and engagement and thousands of views recently on my LinkedIn. And if you think about that, it's like people who follow me and they expect to see stuff about women in leadership, women in technology, entrepreneurship. This post says everything about it. It connects to their purpose. It connects to what matters to them and the reason why they follow me. So they share. Number 3, learn from the masters. Learn from people who have been doing this for many years, because they surely went through a road that you don't need to repeat yourself. So you can learn from their mistakes and from their successes. I usually follow people like Marie Forleo, Gary Vaynerchuk, Alan Hamilton. Oh my gosh, she's incredible. The way that she's building her personal brand and her mission as a catalyst for underrepresented founders is beautiful to see, and so much I can learn from. Now, don't be shy to do that. You're just starting, so you can and you should borrow from the masters and then put your own spin on that, your own hashtags, your own way of talking about the subjects you care about. Number 4, consistency is key. Because the moment that you start putting your message out there, let's say once a week, your audience will expect to listen from you every single week. So define that and define what works best for you. For instance, with my podcast, Hyper Curious, I decided to do the first season with 8 episodes. And I was releasing my episodes every Thursday morning. So people would already expect what's going to be the next guest. They would see every Thursday, they would see on my LinkedIn that I was talking about a new person that I was interviewing that week. And so people, one, they will return to my podcast itself to listen to the audios, but they also would return to my LinkedIn and my Instagram to hear what's going to be the next guest. Now you did the hardest work. You decided to put yourself out there. You defined your goal. You defined your message. You defined your content. You improving on every post that you're doing, learning from what works, what doesn't work. Now, the crucial thing that people don't regard as important, but is as important as everything you're doing, is to keep high engagement with your audience. Like, I engage with every single post, every single thing that someone interacts with me on my posts. Why? Because one, I care. I want to listen to them, what they say, what is their opinion, what is their take on the stuff that I'm putting out. But also it builds a relationship with people who you might never be able to build a relationship with. And of course, it helps building your personal brand as well. So I absolutely love, to me, probably is the most exciting bit of putting content out there, is actually being able to learn from people's perspective and to engage with them on every single post that I put. So do not be afraid of doing that and sharing your view. And like, maybe they're going to say something that you don't agree, but it's an amazing opportunity to build a conversation and even to follow up offline as a DM and, and create something special and evolve your thinking about what you just talked about. Building my personal brand led me to so many opportunities I never imagined I would have, from speaking opportunities to advisory roles to even offers for writing books, and that's something that I parked. One day I'm going to do that, not the right time. But hey, it's this inbound and this amount of offers and opportunities that personal branding kind of open to you is incredible. So if you are in doubt, if you are like thinking there's going to be hard work, if you're thinking that you don't have the confidence, you don't have what it takes, try it out, experiment, like do for a month, see how you feel, see if it feels good for you to put yourself out there. And the benefits to that is not only achieving your goals, but becoming a better person, becoming a better professional, because you're communicating better about what you believe. You might be able to speak up better in meetings that you attend on the day-to-day. And of course, to, become a great role model for the next generations. We need so many of us, so many of us in this conference right now who are a woman in technology, in leadership. We need to show the world that it's possible and how awesome we are. So please do if you can, but don't take yourself too seriously. Play with that and see what works for you best. I would love to take some questions of you right now, and I'm going to open to the floor, and I cannot wait to hear your questions, and I'm going to be live here to answer all of them.
Hello, everyone. And yes, thank you so much to Roberta for that excellent presentation. Roberta is with us now. She's joined us, and we have a chance to ask her some questions on what she's just put together for us. So hello, Roberta. First of all, I wanted to ask you something that occurred to me during the presentation. You were talking about being passionate with your branding and using values that you're passionate with. So I was wondering if you could say a little bit more for people about that.
Yeah, of course. That was probably the best exercise I've done in my life of personal development. It was basically, I had a coach at the time, and then we went through these values, kind of ordering my values, and it could range from achievement to family to wisdom, right? And then through that, I started to understand what my passions are, what are the things that really connect to my values, but connect to the way that I see the world. So things like feminism and women in leadership and, everything about kind of how to build yourself to become a better human being, something that is very much connected to my values. And what are the enemies of that? It's everything that is about the opposite to it, right? So I literally wrote it down. Okay, I'm very high on being highly independent and freedom of thought. What I'm against is someone or something that happens that it's about curbing my freedom or curbing my independence. So that's the way that you can kind of create this kind of passion versus enemy for yourself, depending, of course, on the topic that you're passionate about.
Great, thank you very much. Um, some questions have come in from our delegates, so I'll just throw those at you if you don't mind. So Camille has said, "Hi Roberta, I'm also a girl that came from Brazil to work in finance, which is mainly a male industry. I would love to be able to share my experiences and ideas on feminism and equality. What's your tip to start sharing with the world?"
Right, start sharing. Like literally, I would, if I were you, and hello from Brazil, not from Brazil, I'm in London, but fellow Brazilian. I I would start by writing down the things that I want to talk about to the world, and then basically try to create some tweets or some posts or something that you could try it out and put on your LinkedIn profile and see how people react to that. So it's as simple as start doing it, but you literally have to, the preparation is about you kind of downloading what is in your brain into the paper. And I'm a massive note taker, so I usually do with pen and paper. I don't do it directly on the computer because it helps me to get the stuff from my brain out. The other thing that helps me a lot that I do on an ongoing basis is something called morning pages. And morning pages is a practice that came from a book called The Artist Way from Julia Cameron. And basically what she talks about is how is dedicating like 10 to 20 minutes of your day every single day to write whatever is in your mind. Like literally, it can be like, I had eggs for breakfast. It can be, I'm feeling really down today. And the moment that you start kind of writing things that it's on your mind, like very naturally, you start practicing that any thoughts that comes to your mind, you write it down. And then over time, you build this repertoire of stuff that you want to share with the world.
Wow, that's great. That's great to hear. And kind of touching off that, then there has Silviana has sent in another question, which seems related. She said, "I love how you're doing this presentation. You don't seem to need to refer to any notes. You are just talking. How did you do it? And what are your tips for doing talks like this?"
Look, I have a lot of notes around me. So basically, there are notes everywhere around. I should have taken a picture. I might have taken a picture, and I'll make sure that I post online so you guys can see the behind the scenes of it. So I make a lot of notes, and the way that I prepare for talks, and I have been doing for so many years, but for me, the best way to prepare, that works for me at least, is I write down what is the takeaway, what is it that I want to tell people about the talk. So as you probably noticed in this one, for me, your personal branding needs to be connected to something bigger, and for me it's about being a role model to the world, right? And when you start with an idea, then after that I start writing some topics of why this idea is important and what are the things that I want to talk about that would substantiate the idea. And then I literally almost write a script. I write what I'm gonna talk, and then I transform that into bullet points that are a little bit more kind of easier for me to remember. And when it's something like this that, it's online and I can have all my notes around, it's much simpler, right? Because I can always refer to that. And you probably notice I edited this video, so I cut out all of my ums and weirds and kind of, weird things that I did in between. But when it's live, I either have a few notes on my hand, like literally some cards that I have my notes there, or I rehearse over and over and over and over again. Like I do not stop rehearsing until everything that I need to say is gonna come very naturally from my mouth. So it's a lot of preparation, but it's worth it at the end.
That's great. Yeah, yeah. More questions, and it's kind of close as well. How do you deal with social media criticism? And if a post or some content you have posted isn't so successful, what's your approach to that?
It's life. Most of my posts are not as successful, and success is really, what is success, right? You kind of, when you put yourself out there, you can't measure yourself against numbers and against something that numbers that you would compare with someone who has been doing that for years, that's not fair with you. When you see, posts having thousands of likes or thousands of engagement, you very, very likely that person has been doing that for a long time and has done a lot of experimentation. So when it happened to me when I did my YouTube channel, I was very concerned because it was the first time I was doing that. But then over time, I just thought that it doesn't matter because the right people are going to engage. And I'm going to focus on the people who are enjoying my content, because everybody else, it really doesn't matter. If it doesn't resonate with them, maybe there's something else that's going to resonate with them and not the content that I'm putting out. So yeah, that's more of the way that I think about numbers.
There's a lot more questions that people want to ask you, but we don't have much time. But I thought maybe, is there somewhere people can find you? Which is the best platform to find you on that they could find out?
So bring questions. I'm super happy to take it offline and kind of answer your specific questions. I'm the best place to find me anywhere. It's my website. It's called Betaluca, BETALUCCA.com. And then from there, you can find me on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Twitter, pretty much everywhere. But yeah, if you go to betaluca.com, you will be directed to all the places where you can contact me.
Great. Thank you so much for that.